So you've been asking forever. I'm finally reviewing a Jeep, but not just any Jeep. This Jeep is practically a Power Ranger Jeep, and I have no shame in that at all whatsoever. Wait, this isn't the road? Oh yeah, there's the road. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a 2008 Jeep Wrangler Sahara Edition. I know, it's called a Sahara Edition, yet we're driving something that totally belongs in the Arctic. And this belongs to my buddy Braxton. He drove about 40 minutes to show up with this awesome Jeep, and he's been working on it pretty much for a full year now. So it was his first car, and he had two choices, to either modify it or sell it, and he decided to modify it. And not just a little. Nearly everything on this Jeep has been touched, from the headlights to the crazy LED bar that you could literally shine an entire forest with. And when you're in the car, you can hear it. You can physically hear all that power going through that LED bar. It's pretty ridiculous. But I love what he did with the car. The SABERTOOTH kind of theme is really cool. The grille is an insert, and even the stepping bars are modified, from the interior to the camo seats to the camo wrap to everything. And he's done all of it himself with some friends. Now the only thing he didn't was the wrap, but you know, that's an equipment based thing, and you want somebody professionally to do that for the most part. So the Jeep in total has 2.5 in the front, 2.5 in the back, so 4.5 in total. And a lot of people in the Jeep community just go crazy and lift it so tall to the point the Jeep's not even functional anymore. But this is to the point where you're on the street, it's good, and if you're off-road, it's good. So if you're curious about the brand of the lift system and suspension, it's Quadrotech, and with this, it gives the element of the lift and everything else. The thing about it though is it looks like it was meant to be there. When you look at the Jeep, it doesn't look like it's overkill, it doesn't look like it's underkill. It looks like it could have come from the factory with this much lift. Every time it shifts to the next gear, you just get this big old buck. Got my 3.8 liter GTR motor in my Jeep. Now this is the 3.8 liter V6, and we're gonna be honest with you, it is not the greatest engine ever made. There's a ton of kind of slack when you get on the gas pedal. As soon as you get on it, you have to wait a second, and then it gets in. And see, also it's going through a 4-speed transmission. It's an auto. Rumor has it, just a few years later, the 3.6 liter V6 is worlds ahead. But once again, first car, and he really made it his own. One thing that he looked into was if he should get like a snorkel set up or something along those lines for when he goes off-roading, say in Pennsylvania. So he decided to go through a ton of mud and a ton of water. The intake on this car was like that big. So you replaced it with an air filter, a nice big air filter, but at the same time, I guess you feel kind of the risk of just soaking the entire engine when you go through off-roading and mud and whatnot. It stood the test of time and it was okay, and to this day, under the hood is still the battle scars of going through the mud. It runs awesome in snow. It runs like a champ. There's not too much tire noise, but there is some top noise. Most Jeeps I get into that are lifted feel like complete death boxes. And so far, this one doesn't. You do get a little bit of the crosswind when you're cruising around and whatnot, but it's totally manageable and compared to, say, that huge truck I reviewed a long time ago. Like, not even close. Also, a few things to note in the interior. There's lots of buttons. The light buttons, you have apocalypse lights, you have the headlights which has a questionable image on it, you have zombie response light, FU lights, and you also have winch power. So it's a plethora of options when you get in this car. It truly is like an all-utility Jeep. Oh yeah, and also has an awesome horn. It's going through the intersection and You can't hear it, but it's basically a tiger roar. The horns in this were completely destroyed. They were flooded, and so they're like, oh, screw it, let's just put a tiger noise on it. As you see, his license plate says SABERCAT on it. Everybody wants to call it SABERCAT, but he says it's named SABERTOOth. But you can't really fit SABERTOOth on a license plate, so what are you gonna do about it? It almost sounds like a character from like that show Thundercats or something, SABERCAT. The one other thing you notice is when you get onto the highway, you really gotta get up to speed and hold it there. To get it up to speed is a little tough, but overall, it's weird being in a vehicle that you pretty much know for the most part you can go over anything. And I'm so used to being low to the ground and having to angle over stuff and all this. I mean, you saw earlier, we just went through some grass just because we could, and it's just a weird mindset saying, it snows, no problem. It rains, no problem. The other day he went out in a tornado warning because he could. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I can definitely see how the Jeep life is very appealing to a lot of people, and tons of people want the Wrangler as their first car because it has so much character to it. It's a very simplistic interior. You know, you have a very simple, just little tiny plastic door handle. You have a lot of other editions of the Jeep where it's just like a strap. And also the tops of these cars are made like super cheap with plastic windows and everything, but people just don't care because they're so passionate about the brand. I myself have memories in Jeeps with my uncle. We used to go off-roading all the time, and I get it now. I get why people are so into them. However, what's interesting about like the Jeep crowd is that nobody really gets jealous over each other. Everyone's pretty accepting of it. It's what you want to do with your car. But the owner of this car, poor guy, has gotten so much hate. It's ridiculous. For one example, it's been egged, so it's been vandalized to the point he had to get security cameras and like threaten the people not to touch his car anymore. He's even lost friends over what he did to his car. First of all, you don't want to be friends with those people. Those people are stupid. Another thing I've noticed about being in Jeeps, which I've done in a few other cars too, it's so nitpicky, but where the window switches are. So every time I go down to put the window, I go over here and then I unlock the car and endanger my life instead of going right here in the center. And it's super easy. I just don't know why I keep forgetting. It was funny, the first time I got the images of this car, the first thing my mind went to was like Jurassic Park. I know that sounds funny, but it's like, you know, they had the old Wrangler in the first Jurassic Park movie with the gray and the red, and I was like, Jurassic World, what would the Jeeps look like there? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. That's what it would look like, you know, Jurassic World didn't, you know, get destroyed by a giant genetic dinosaur or anything, but you know. You can do it. Another thing too is the 4-speed. You know, the first gear goes to like 50 miles an hour, and then the second gear goes to like 75 or 80. So it's kind of a weird ratio. And then along with that, the 4-speed is used mostly for overdrive, which is no shocker at all. So if you think about it, you only have about 3 gears to really play with. It's a weird concept nowadays, now that we have 7 to 10 speed gearboxes. Now going back to 4 is kind of jarring. I can see why a lot of people either love or hate this thing. And the reason I love it is because when I got the picture, I saw the time in it. I saw how much time was put into this Jeep. And I respect that. Literally everything has been touched, like I said earlier. Even the brake light is a really interesting story. They wanted to do something different with the brake light, and what they did was they took the top of a trash can lid and then put LEDs through it and wired that to be the brake light through the spare tire. Who thinks of that? Not me. I mean, I think that's pretty innovative, and it just shows you can make something out of nothing. So one other thing about the motor, it has an ECU called Trail Dash, and you can do a bunch of different tunes and settings for it, and it definitely affects how the engine acts and reacts to me going around these bends. And going around bends in a lifted Jeep was not the smartest idea I've ever done in my life, but hey, do it for science. Okay, come on, baby. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. Okay, so I typically thought I was gonna get, you know, atrocious, scary, I'm gonna tip over body roll. You do feel the weight transfer, but you're not in the mindset that you're gonna flip the Jeep. I'm not, first of all, I'm not going fast enough to do that. Second of all, why would you? And go! I feel like I have to row a boat. Oh. Every bump. You look at all the lighting systems on this car. You have the LED light bar, you have the brake lights we talked about earlier with the trash can lid, you have the 2 rear LED lights, you have the headlights that are just awesome, and they're basically angel eyes. So adding all these things together, even at night, it has underglow on it, which apparently was like the most horrid thing ever to wire. They had to rewire it one more time to get it to work. But, you know, those kind of things might be frowned upon in the car scene nowadays by a few people. But I have one thing to say to that. Who cares? Alright guys, I hope that every single one of you enjoyed this Jeep. It was a ton of fun. It was interesting driving a Wrangler for my first time, pretty much. I've only driven one other one before that was bone stock, but I definitely understand why people love these, no matter how fast or slow they are. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did, and I will see you guys next time, and take it easy. Have a fantastic day.